You.
Chapter 1 Introduction A Gateway to the Past. You are not in your bed anymore. There is no mattress beneath you, no soft cotton sheets, no gentle hum of a refrigerator 2 rooms away. What surrounds you now is stillness, not silence, but stillness. A dense, breathing quiet, the kind that only exists before the world wakes. Your body rests on a woven mat so thin it might as well be the floor. A floor that sighs beneath you, made of old wood. The kind that remembers footsteps, blood, and seasons. The air is cold but not crisp. It's damp, with the scent of earth, smoke, and something faintly metallic. Maybe old steel, maybe dried sweat, maybe both. You haven't opened your eyes yet, but already your skin knows this is not a place of comfort. The sky outside is still ink black, though a whisper of blue threatens the horizon. Somewhere far off, a rooster coughs. Not sing, coughs, as if he too resents being awake this early. Your bones ache, not from age, but from habit. The ache is inherited, not just from yesterday's labor, but from every yesterday that came before it. You are 10 years old, or maybe 8, it doesn't matter. Childhood is not a phase here. It's a waiting room for servitude. And above all else, there is the cold. Not dramatic, not deadly, just persistent. It slips under your robes like an unwanted hand, clinging to your spine, nesting behind your knees. You pull the blanket, if you can call it that, tighter around you, but it smells of mildew and has the insulating power of rice paper. Your breath fogs in front of you like a ghost leaving your lips. You're not sick, but you wish you were. Illness is sometimes the only excuse for rest. But even then, the chores don't disappear. They simply hover, growing heavier by the hour. Somewhere in the dark, you hear footsteps. Slow, deliberate, familiar. You know them by the rhythm. A servant named Daichi, older than moss, whose knees sound like grinding stones. He's coming to wake you, not with a voice, never with a voice, but with the lift of the shutter, the sharp kiss of morning light, and the unspoken expectation. Rise, breathe, serve. You were left here when you were barely able to walk, brought in under the wing of a man you once called father, the Shogun. Not the kind from scrolls and epics, but a real one. Flesh, duty, and distance. He never spoke to you again. Perhaps he thought this temple was a gift. Shelter, discipline, safety. Perhaps he forgot you existed. Or perhaps, and this is the version you hold closest, he meant to forget. After all, children are inconvenient when they're not part of the plan. You want to hate him, but hatred requires energy, and energy is something you must ration. You don't remember the last time someone said your name. Here, you are not a boy. You are not a son. You are not even a person. You are a vessel for tasks. Chop wood, sweep floors, boil rice, scrub sandals, repeat. You are greeted not with affection, but with instructions, and sometimes, if you're lucky, corrections. A swat across the back of the head, a grunt of disapproval, a nod if the rice doesn't burn. You count those nods. They mean something. You don't know what, but they mean something. And yet, despite everything, you survive. Not triumphantly, not nobly, just persistently. Like the mold that blooms in the corners of the walls, or the smoke that never fully clears. You remain, small, silent, watchful. It is the beginning of another day. And somewhere, beyond these walls, beyond the winter air and the gravel paths, he lives. The Shogun, your father, warm, powerful, clothed in silks and surrounded by men who bow. He does not know that you dream of rice without rocks in it, of sandals that fit, of hands that touch without purpose. He does not know you are still here, but you are. And one day, you will return. Not with fire, not with revenge, but with something quieter, something colder, something far more terrifying. Memory. Chapter 2. The Morning Ritual of Frost and Duty. You open your eyes, but the world is still asleep. The paper walls are pale, like old bone, and the light that seeps through them is not sunrise. It is the gray promise of another day you didn't ask for. The cold has stiffened your fingers into claws, and when you try to move, your joints resist. Not because you are old, but because your body has learned to dread the morning. It is a quiet protest, one it loses every time. You sit up, slowly. The blanket slips off your shoulders, and the chill bites your skin without hesitation. You breathe in, shallow, and the air scratches your throat like ash. You slept in your clothes, of course you do. There is no luxury of changing into warmth here. Your robe smells of old charcoal, of the oil from your own scalp, and of rain that fell 3 days ago and never quite left. Beneath you, the tatami mat is damp in the corners. The straw is frayed, and you've learned to avoid the edge where something sharp, perhaps a splinter, perhaps a nail, waits with patient cruelty. You touch your forehead to the floor, briefly, in a gesture so old even your body doesn't question it. Not prayer, not devotion, just habit. The first sound you hear is the wind sliding its fingers through the cracked window frame. The second is your own stomach folding in on itself. You haven't eaten since yesterday's midday gruel. That bowl was more water than rice, and the few grains that floated in it were already half chewed by fatigue. You tell yourself that hunger sharpens the spirit. The monks say that. But the truth is, it only dulls everything else. You stand. Your feet find the wooden floor, slick with condensation. You walk carefully, because the first step is always treacherous. The boards are unpredictable. One creaks like a mourning widow. Another simply collapses if stepped on wrong. You've learned to navigate them like a map of landmines. The hallway greets you with its usual silence. No one speaks this early. Words are too expensive before dawn. You pass other boys, shadows really, also walking, also avoiding eye contact, also pretending not to feel the cold. One sneezes. No one reacts. You don't even know his name. You shared a bed with him last winter for warmth. You still don't know his name. The washing basin is outside. Of course it is. Why shield yourself from the elements when humiliation can be educational? You kneel before the stone trough, and it glares back at you with a thin crust of ice on the surface. The water is from the mountain, direct and unapologetic. You break the film with your knuckles, it feels like shattering glass. You scoop a handful to your face. It's not refreshing, it's punishment. Your skin recoils, your lips go numb. But you do it again, and again. The water runs down your neck and into your collar, where it settles like a second spine of ice. There is no soap, no towel, only a rag that once may have been white, now stiff with years of someone else's skin. You clean your teeth with a twig. The bark is bitter. The wood is dry and fibrous. Sometimes it bleeds your gums. They say that pain builds character. But here, character is currency, and yours is constantly bankrupt. You spit into the dirt. It freezes before it disappears. By now, the sun has begun its slow ascent, reluctant and pale. The temple bell rings once, not as a greeting, but as a command. A single thunderous breath that shakes the crows from the roof tiles and announces to every living soul within earshot, your comfort is over. You line up with the others, back straight, eyes down. The floorboards still groan beneath you, memorizing your weight. Someone whispers a chant. Another boy sways slightly, sleep still tangled in his limbs. The monk walks past, silent as mist. His presence is felt more than seen. A hush, a weight, a disapproval that clings to the skin like wet cloth. He stops, points at one of the boys. Again, he says, without emotion. The boy bows, leaves the line, and begins the ritual from the start. Maybe his bow wasn't deep enough. Maybe his robe was crooked. Maybe he simply looked too alive. You feel nothing. No pity, no relief. You've been chosen before. You'll be chosen again. This is morning. And congratulations, you survived it.
Chapter 3: The Food That Teaches Silence. You are already seated when the bowl arrives. It is not handed to you. It is placed, wordlessly, on the rough wooden floor in front of you, like an offering to a god that no one believes in anymore. You lower your head in gratitude, or perhaps in resignation. The line between the two vanished long ago. The steam rising from the bowl is thin, weak, and quickly defeated by the cold. A fleeting ghost of warmth that vanishes before it can mean anything. Inside, rice, or what pretends to be. The grains are swollen, split, exhausted. A few float awkwardly in a grayish broth that smells faintly of burnt kelp and yesterday's regrets. No seasoning, no meat, no questions, just this, a ladle's worth of humility, and you are expected to cherish it. You pick up your chopsticks, their edges rounded by years of other hands, and begin. Slowly, quietly. Every movement is a ritual, not because it is sacred, but because it is observed. There are eyes everywhere, monks, elders, shadows behind paper walls. One loud slurp, one stray drop, one impulsive sigh, and the silence breaks. And when silence breaks, discipline follows. You chew. The rice sticks to your teeth like paste. It is soft in places, hard in others, as if unsure how thoroughly it should surrender. A small insect leg drifts in the broth. You do not remove it. You've learned that hunger is stronger than revulsion. You keep eating, slowly, always slowly. There is pickled daikon on the side, one slice, thin enough to see light through. It is the color of forgotten sunlight and tastes like vinegar soaked in memory. Sharp, acrid, unforgiving. You chew it longer than necessary, just to prolong the sensation of something real. It scrapes your tongue and lingers like a reprimand. A boy across from you coughs, just once, a dry, bark-like cough. No one reacts. No one looks up. He is already being forgotten, one spoonful at a time. You keep your eyes on your bowl. You are not here to help. You are here to endure. You drink the last of the broth. It is lukewarm now, thinner than tea, heavier than silence. Your stomach receives it with a cautious gurgle. Not satisfaction, not even nourishment, just the dull acceptance of something to fill the space where ache was growing. When the meal ends, there is no thanks, no conversation, only the scraping of bowls, the rhythmic folding of legs, the shuffling of feet against wood. You clean your bowl with your own tongue, not out of hunger, though there is always that, but because waste is sin, and sin has consequences. A monk walks past with a basket. You place your bowl inside, gently, as if it were made of glass. He nods once, not at you, at the act itself. There is no reward for obedience, only the absence of correction, and that is the closest thing to peace you'll taste today. You rise, your knees crack. The floor is colder than before. You file out with the others, feet numb, lips dry, eyes lowered. Breakfast is over, and now the work begins.
Chapter 4: The Weight of Obedience. The courtyard is already waiting for you. It waits the way stone waits, without urgency, without pity. A wide, wind-battered expanse of gravel and silence, flanked by wooden walls and the occasional withered pine, bent not by age, but by surrender. The sky above is pale, featureless, an empty bowl turned upside down. No clouds, no warmth, just the blank indifference of another day. You stand in formation, feet aligned, back straight, hands hidden within your sleeves. The cold seeps through fabric, skin, and into the small, shaking spaces between your bones. You do not shiver. Shivering is movement, and movement without permission is a failure of discipline. The master steps out. His steps are not loud, but you hear them anyway, not with your ears, but with your spine. He does not speak. He does not need to. His silence is instructional. His gaze alone reshapes the air around him. He walks down the line slowly, sandals whispering against the gravel, and you feel the weight of being seen, even when his eyes do not meet yours. Then it begins. You kneel, not as a gesture, as a condition. Kneeling is not submission here. It is identity. You are not your name, your thoughts, or your memories. You are how long you can kneel without moving, without speaking, without hoping. Someone behind you falters. Their breathing becomes audible, a sharp inhale where there should be none. A small sound, like a leaf breaking in winter. The master pauses. No one looks. No one blinks. In this place, compassion is not cruelty. It is sabotage. The tools are distributed. Wooden brooms, buckets of icy water, cloths so coarse they draw blood from the soft parts of your fingers. You bow to receive them because even suffering arrives with ceremony. You scrub the stones with the others, back bent in the shape of surrender. Every motion circular, endless, as if trying to erase the memory of your presence here. Your fingers burn, then go numb. Your knees ache. Your breathing grows shallow, but you do not stop. The gravel bites your skin. The wind chops your lips. Your nose runs. You let it. Wiping it would be indulgence. A crow lands on the rooftop, cocking its head, watching, waiting. It's the only thing here that's allowed to scream. Hours pass without a clock. Time is not measured here. It is endured. Work continues until someone collapses, or until the master gestures once, slowly, like the falling of a single autumn leaf. Today, he says nothing. You scrub until the water in your bucket turns gray, and your hands resemble the old bark of trees that forgot how to grow. When the bell finally rings, it is not a relief. It is a shift in pain. The body uncurls, but the spirit remains kneeling.
You rise carefully, limbs protesting like doors that haven't been opened in years. Your reward is a bowl of water to wash your hands. Not warm, not clean, just water, shared by everyone, clouded with traces of effort and fatigue. You dip your hands in, slowly, reverently. You do not linger. No praise is given, no words are spoken. The master is gone, the wind remains. You return your tools in silence, one by one. And as you bow, you realize you are not tired, you are not proud, you are simply emptied. And soon, it will be time to eat again. And now, the work begins.
Chapter 5. The Meal You've Earned. The dining hall is not a place of joy. It is not warm, nor loud, nor filled with the chatter of men pretending to forget their burdens. It is, instead, another room of silence. Wooden floors, worn thin by years of bare feet. Walls that sweat in winter. A row of bowls already placed on the floor, identical and uninviting. No chairs, no decorations, just hunger, kneeling beside discipline. You take your place, kneeling once again, knees bruised but obedient. Your spine holds itself straight, not because it is proud, but because it must. The body forgets pleasure when it remembers duty. The bowl before you contains rice, technically, a handful of grains boiled into a loose gray mass, sticky and thin, like glue that no longer clings to anything. There is a pickle, one sliver, shriveled and sour, floating like a mistake. If fortune smiles, there is also a piece of daikon, pale, cold, and bitter, with the texture of wet paper left out in the sun. You do not complain. You bow before the food. You say nothing. The first bite is always the same, bland, pasty, and cold. The rice sticks to the roof of your mouth like a reminder. This is not about nourishment. This is about humility. Chewing is slow, deliberate. You count each motion of your jaw, not out of ritual, but because chewing too quickly means finishing too soon. And finishing too soon means sitting in silence while your stomach remembers what it used to be. There are no second servings. There are no flavors to miss. The pickle surprises you, sharp and almost violent against the monotony. Its salt cuts your tongue open like a whisper of something alive. You savor it too long. You are not supposed to savor. You are supposed to consume and continue. But the body, even trained, remembers desire. Across from you, another pair of eyes glances down at their bowl. Not with resentment, that would be too luxurious, but with a quiet, practiced resignation, as if asking, will this be enough to carry me through the next ritual? The answer is always no, but the body adjusts. It learns to run on empty. There is tea, if the gods are generous. Weak, brown water that tastes of bark and ash, poured into small cups with hands that no longer tremble. It is warm sometimes, and that is dangerous. Warmth implies comfort, and comfort implies softness. Softness does not survive here. You finish your meal in silence. You clean your bowl with your fingers, then your tongue. Not because you're starving, though you are, but because waste is a sin more serious than pain. The grain that sticks to the bottom is your burden to remove, even the tiniest one, especially the tiniest one. You bow again, you rise slowly, your knees crack like old wood. No one notices, no one laughs. Pain is not remarkable here, it is simply shared. You return the bowl to the stack, careful not to clatter. Sound is for those who still need to be noticed. You do not need that anymore. And as you walk away, belly hollow, throat dry, spine rigid,
You do not think of flavor or satisfaction or joy. You think only of the next silence and how loud it will feel when it finally arrives.
Chapter 6: Sickness and the Privilege of Pain. It doesn't begin with a cough, nor a fever. It begins with a stillness that shouldn't be there. A moment when your limbs move half a second too slow, when the world tilts slightly off-center, and you pretend it doesn't. You lie to your own body, telling it it's just the cold, or the fasting, or the fatigue. But the body knows. The bones, silent and obedient, begin to whisper. You wake one morning drenched in sweat that smells metallic and wrong. Your robe clings to your back like damp moss. Your mouth is dry, but thick with a sour paste that no tea will wash away. You rise, because that is what you've been taught to do. Even illness must kneel before discipline. There is no infirmary, no doctor, no bed rest. Only the quiet agreement that sickness is not an excuse. It is a test. You are still expected to bow, still expected to scrub, still expected to sweep the courtyard, even as your vision folds in at the edges and your hands tremble like paper in rain. No one asks if you are well. To do so would be to invite weakness into the room. Instead, they glance, brief, almost imperceptible looks that say, "I see it," and that is enough. You are now marked, not as diseased, but as disposable. If you falter, someone else will rise. The rhythm does not wait for you. Pain sharpens. It settles into your joints like rust. Your breath shortens. Each step feels like your spine is grinding against itself. But still you walk. Still you chant. Still you bow. You vomit once, behind the meditation hall. It is quiet, almost elegant. Nothing but bile and stringy saliva, and something that might have been rice 3 days ago. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. No one sees. That is best. Eventually, they allow you to rest. Not because they care, but because your shaking disrupts the silence. You are sent to the storage shed, not out of mercy, but containment. A place with no bedding, no light, no warmth. Just sacks of old grain and a roof that leaks in 3 places. You lie on the floor, curled like a creature, listening to the rain drip through the ceiling. Each drop counts the hours. There is no one to check on you, no medicine, save for whatever strength remains in your gut and your will. Time dissolves. Fever comes in waves, and in between, you hallucinate things that feel like memories. A mother's hand on your forehead, the sound of dogs barking in a distant street, the scent of grilled fish from a world that no longer exists. Your body begins to eat itself. Muscles thin, skin yellows. Dreams become indistinguishable from waking. You lose count of the days. Perhaps it has been 2, perhaps 10. And then, as quietly as it arrived, the sickness fades. Not because it has been defeated, but because it has taken what it needed. You are lighter now, frailer. Something has been scraped from inside you, and it will not return. You are expected back the next day. No one greets you. No one asks what it was. You bow, as always, and resume your place. The chores continue. The chanting resumes. The world moves on, as if your absence was never real. You have survived. Congratulations. Next time, you may not. Chapter 7: Nightfall and the Things That Stay Awake. The day ends not with a bell, but with the quiet extinguishing of presence, a slow retreat into absence. Shadows lengthen across the tatami, swallowing corners and softening the severity of the walls. The last chore fades into silence. The last bowl is washed and turned upside down to dry. You are no longer expected to move, but rest is not the same as relief. You fold yourself onto the floor, spine straight, legs tucked beneath you in the seiza position, the only sleep posture permitted inside the temple for one like you. The straw mat beneath your knees has already remembered the shape of your suffering. Your blanket is thin, so is the silence. You breathe as if it might break. The room smells of wax and old wood. Dust floats in the last blue light like ash in a forgotten battlefield. Somewhere outside, a cicada scrapes the night. Inside, no one speaks. Words are too loud for this hour. Even the coughs are muffled behind sleeves, behind pride. Your body aches, not in protest, but in persistence, like a rope frayed and tightened one too many times. The soles of your feet pulse from the day's labor. Your shoulders twitch involuntarily from hours of holding still. Your stomach, always half hungry, churns softly in the quiet. You would almost miss that sound if it vanished. The cold creeps in beneath the door like a patient enemy. There is no fire, not for you. Heat is earned, not given. You tuck your hands into your sleeves and pretend it helps. It doesn't. Sleep arrives slowly, not as a visitor, but a wager. How much exhaustion does it take to override discomfort? You drift and then startle awake when your body slumps. Every sound feels exaggerated. The creak of a floorboard, the snap of a distant ember, the faint drip of water leaking from a cracked pipe in the outer corridor. These are the sounds that stay awake when you try to sleep. And then, there are the others. The thoughts you've swallowed all day rise like ghosts. Regrets you swore you'd buried scratch at the corners of your mind. Faces you haven't seen in years visit your dreams and leave behind the scent of absence. You remember a dog you once loved, a fig you once stole, a kindness you did not return. Guilt grows louder in the dark. You are not alone. The others in the room shift, sigh, twitch. No one is sleeping well. No one ever does. The discipline may silence the voice, but the body remembers. And still, morning always comes, not as mercy, but routine. A bell, cold and metallic, shatters the night's illusion of peace. You open your eyes, you sit up, you bow. You survived the night. Again. Chapter 8. The Art of Invisibility. You rise before the sun dares to. The world is still dark, thick with the scent of soot and damp wood. There is no ceremony in waking, no softness, no transition. Just the abrupt return of duty, like stepping back into shackles you never fully escaped. You move silently, not because silence is virtuous, but because attention is dangerous. You have learned the value of invisibility. Your steps are deliberate, weightless, not to be graceful, that is a luxury, but to avoid the floorboards that creak, the eyes that notice. There is a choreography to surviving here, and the first rule is, don't be remembered. You fold your futon with the precision of a blade being sheathed. You wash your face with water so cold it stings, then evaporates into the hollows of your cheeks like smoke. You do not speak unless spoken to. You do not look unless commanded. You do not ask. Asking implies need, and need is the first symptom of weakness. Instead, you make yourself small, not in size, but in spirit. You disappear between tasks, within rituals, behind the backs of your superiors. You are a shadow cast by someone else's importance. Breakfast is the same as yesterday, and the day before that. Rice, miso, pickled daikon. Enough to keep you standing, never enough to make you feel full. You choose slowly, not because you savor it, but because there's nothing else to savor later. You learn to stretch time with your mouth. Around you, the others eat with the same quiet, mechanical rhythm. The bowls empty like hourglasses. No one lingers. You clean before you eat. You clean after you eat. You clean things already clean, because in this world, purity is not a state, it is a performance. The rag in your hand becomes an extension of your body, damp and rough. You scrub floors until your knuckles redden, then pale, then vanish beneath habit. Sometimes you catch your own reflection in a polished surface and do not recognize the person looking back. That too is a kind of success. You listen carefully to the hierarchy of footsteps. Heavy ones mean danger, someone of rank. Light ones mean a peer, or worse, someone beneath you looking for someone to tread on. The goal is always the same: pass unnoticed, untouched, unremembered. A name is a target. A mistake is a scarlet thread that never unstitches. You begin to move like an animal trained not to make eye contact. You learn when to bow and when to disappear. You learn how to carry water without splashing, how to wait 3 breaths before answering, not out of hesitation, but humility. You fold your body like parchment and pray it never wrinkles in the wrong direction. There are moments when someone calls for help, a dropped tray, a broken dish, a tear too audible. But you've also learned the second rule: do not approach fire unless you're prepared to burn. Pity is not protection. So you look away, quietly. You move on. You return to your corner of nothingness. Being invisible is not cowardice, it is craft. A survival honed by repetition, by obedience, by fear dressed as discipline. You convince yourself that vanishing is a kind of strength, because if they can't see you, they can't hurt you. And if they forget you ever existed, maybe the pain forgets you too. So you keep walking, without a sound, without a trace. Chapter 9: The Unending Cycle. The sun arcs slowly across a leaden sky, casting long, cold shadows over the wooden beams and earthen floors you call home. The day stretches out before you, not as promise, but as repetition, a loop without escape. Every task you perform folds neatly into the next, like the relentless turning of a millstone grinding grain to dust. You begin with the same awakening ritual, the stiff limbs, the aching joints that remind you of battles you never chose to fight. Your breath steams in the chill air, a quiet companion to the low murmur of early morning chores. The scent of wet straw clings to your skin, mingling with the faint bitterness of miso from last night's meager meal. There is no respite. You scrub, carry, fetch, sweep, movements so habitual they seem carved into your muscles. The rough weave of your kimono scratches against your skin. The wooden sandals tap softly against worn floorboards. Each sound is a metronome marking the passage of another day lived in quiet endurance. You eat the same hard rice that tastes like regret baked under the sun, salted with sweat and resignation. Your stomach churns, but hunger dulls the ache like a fog settling over the mind. There is no comfort in food, only the bare minimum to keep the body functional. Illness creeps silently, a shadow lurking in the damp corners. A cough, a fever, a twisted ankle, each weakness noted and filed away by those who hold cower. There are no doctors here, only whispered prayers to gods who seem deaf to suffering. You learn to mask pain, to swallow it whole, lest it mark you as weak, unworthy of mercy. As evening falls, you return to the small futon that barely cushions your bones. The night is long, filled with the echo of loneliness and the relentless tick of time. Sleep does not come easily. When it does, it is shallow and fleeting, a fragile reprieve before the cycle begins anew. This unending routine, this daily grind of survival, wears at your spirit. It is a slow erosion, the steady drip of water on stone. Yet within it, you find a strange kind of rhythm, a brutal poetry of endurance. You are trapped, yes, but not broken. You endure because you must. You endure because to stop is to vanish completely. And so the cycle turns, day into night, night into day, a silent witness to a life measured not in achievements, but in moments survived.
Chapter 10. Reflections in the Stillness. The darkness settles softly around you, a thick velvet curtain drawn over the world, muffling sounds and dulling edges. In this quiet, your thoughts emerge like fragile shadows, whispers of what was and what might have been. There is no grand conclusion here, no sweeping redemption, only the weight of years folded into silence. You feel the roughness of the straw beneath you, its sharpness a reminder that comfort was never promised, only fleeting moments of reprieve. The faint scent of smoke from a distant hearth drifts in, mingling with the cool, damp air that slips through the cracks in the wooden walls. It is a scent of endurance, of nights spent awake while the world outside sleeps peacefully. Loneliness is your constant companion, neither loud nor desperate, but a quiet presence that presses gently against your skin, like the first chill of winter. It is the absence of choice, the invisible chains forged by birth and circumstance. Yet in this solitude, there is a strange kind of intimacy, an unspoken understanding shared with countless souls who have walked this path before. You ponder the contrast between this stark existence and the world beyond, soft beds, warm meals, the hum of modern life so distant it might well be a dream. But these thoughts are tempered with a wry smile, a dark humor that seeps from the very marrow of your being. After all, who could endure this life without a touch of irony? The hard bread, the relentless toil, the endless waiting, all absurd in their cruelty, yet undeniably real. There is no promise here, no lesson to be learned, only the raw truth of a life lived in shadows and silence. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of time settle over you like a familiar cloak. And as the night deepens, you find within the stillness a quiet grace, a small beacon of peace in a world that has offered so little. This is your story, not one of heroes or villains, but of survival,
not one of triumph, but of presence. And in this presence, perhaps there is something to hold on to, however faint, however fragile, a thread woven through the tapestry of a life quietly endured.